Blane, why don't you, rather than having me introduce you, why don't you just...
Yeah, I was prepared to introduce myself, so I will do that.
Okay, good.
I'll take the time back and share all that, including, what was the exciting thing? Was that the...
Yeah, remarkable, exciting,
or
right,
so I got one.
Okay.
But before I go there, so I'm a double hatter. Does anybody know what that is? Does anybody know what a hatter is? All right, so we have no Stetson University graduates. So I'm a Stetson University undergrad and their law school, so we call ourselves double hatters.
Oh.
I got here out of law school in '95, practiced plaintiff's personal injury with the firm for a couple of years, and felt God leading me to take a leap of faith and open my own practice. And I did that early in my career in '98. I also became a certified mediator in the year 2000. Back then you had to be a lawyer, and you had to be a lawyer for 5 years, so for me that was the year 2000. So I got that credential in the hopes that at some point some of the people that are hogging the lion's share of their work will move on or pass away or whatever and free up some space, and it's kind of trickled. Board certified in civil trial. Currently I am essentially a full-time mediator. I say that because I have a couple of cases in my inventory that I wanted to see to finish rather than hand them off to somebody else. So that's me on a professional end. In terms of personally, later this year in May, specifically May 21st, I will be honored to share with my wife a 30th wedding anniversary. So I'm proud of that. We have 3 boys, our housemates' boys, and the oldest is a college junior. The middle one is a high school senior. The youngest is a high school freshman. I'll pause and do the remarkable thing I told Heidi here, that we're in the throes of our middle son kind of figuring out the college choice. And it's very exciting. And thankfully, he looks good on paper. I think he looks good anyhow, but there's people just seeing him on paper, he looks good, and he's gotten some nice responses from his applications. There's a couple schools that don't announce yet, so we're waiting to kind of hear what everybody says and then kind of figure it out from there. But it's definitely exciting times. I would call it remarkable to fit within your parameter. And we homeschooled. My wife had that burden on her heart, and I did not veto that. I'm glad I did. I did not have that experience. She didn't have it personally. She babysat long ago for the prototypical Catholic family. Had all gods of kids, and they decided they wanted to homeschool. And so she kind of saw that from that perspective and really admired what that was. And if you didn't know, Jacksonville is a very homeschool-friendly community. So we benefited a lot from having a cooperative school board and just fellow families that we could kind of walk along with and all that. So for us, that meant kindergarten through high school senior. So our oldest boy went off and is successful in college, having been homeschooled all those years. Dual enrolled the last couple of years of high school, so they get some college experience and some credits and get some opportunities. So it's been a good deal, good fit. And the guy who's talking to you has historically been the early morning science teacher. That's my role in the homeschool, and I kind of got voluntold to be the science teacher. And okay, it wouldn't have been my choice, but I'm glad. It's stretched me a bit and allowed me to have a bond that I think most dads wouldn't have with their kids to be at that level. So I'm honored and blessed by that. In terms of extracurriculars, I am also on the paid lay staff of my church, San Jose Baptist Church. I've been the director of adult ministries. This summer will be 20 years, which is hard to believe. So that means coordinating the small groups, the Bible study classes, doing a lot of the teaching of that. I am also the ringleader of sorts for Christian Legal Society's Pro Bono project, which is something that we do at the City Rescue Mission's McDuff campus. They have a Life Builder program, which is more the rehab versus the emergency services, which is what you find downtown primarily. That's a feeder for the life builders, for folks who want to break the cycle. And so our team shows up 5 or 6 times a year on their campus and kind of helps address the legal issues that might be barriers to their successful reentry into society and things that are bringing them back into the life of old. So that's been a blessing. I'm on the Stetson University Board of Directors, Stetson University Alumni Association Board of Directors. That's the double hatters pitch for y'all. And lastly, as Doug introduced, I'm the current president of the Jacksonville Bar Association. So I don't say all that just to throw a lot of acronyms and whatnot out there, but that's just who I am, and part of that's going to flow into the discussion that I'm about to share. And I would call this a discussion versus a presentation. When I do give presentations, there's usually Q&A components, so I'm going to pause and ask for feedback. And if your mouth is full of food, and even though that might not be proper etiquette, as Doug shared yesterday, I'm okay with you, offering an answer when you haven't fully chewed the polenta in your mouth or whatever it may be. So feel free to chime in as you want to. I was going to ask I'm still ask it, but I'm realizing that maybe the crowd isn't quite what I thought it was. But I have adopted and have, I think, been consistent in proclaiming a theme for this year with the Jacksonville Bar Association, kind of for my presidency at least. Does anybody want to give a stab at trying to recite it reasonably well? Anybody know it well enough? All right, fair enough.
I don't want to butcher it. Do I get to say it since I said it
Sure,
earlier?
you knew part of it. Go ahead.
To make it more fun to be a lawyer.
All right, that's a paraphrase, but yeah, that's the tail end. The Jacksonville Bar Association builds community so you can better enjoy being a lawyer.
Yeah.
That was, I kind of got struck by that idea and concept, and when Doug and Elena asked me to, asked me to come here and talk, I was like, well, what can I talk about? And then I really thought about, why did that resonate with me? And so I plan to kind of be discussing, not the Jacksonville Bar per se, but the idea of building community.
It really resonated with me too.
Good.
When you gave that talk, when you were sworn into the Jack's Bar, and I thought, okay, that I really want to have you dig down so we can all hear how do you make it enjoyable for lawyers to be lawyers?
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you for inviting me, and hopefully we'll roundtable some ideas about that very topic. So I have only been a lawyer here in Jacksonville. For those of you who are lawyers, have you ever practiced anywhere else? I'm not talking about having a case that's somewhere. I'm talking about like you were physically located, someone else practiced there for a period of time, you were shaking. Okay, both of you. Where can I ask?
Live Oak, I started out in Sarasota, Boca Raton, Orlando, and Memphis, Tennessee.
Good grief. Wow, well traveled. Okay.
I practice in Pensacola and in Tampa.
Okay, excellent. So again, I don't have that experience. My only frame of reference for the legal community and society is here. I remember always hearing and frankly believing, because I didn't have any proof otherwise, that the Jacksonville area had one of the most, if not the most, collegial bar. So I wanted to ask, particularly you two fellows who chimed in, since you practice elsewhere, what's your take on that claim to fame? Is that legit, or have you seen collegiality flourish elsewhere too?
Not legit.
Okay.
Pensacola being a smaller town.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Pensacola, he says Live Oak, something, and those probably pretty tight.
Friendlier, everybody knows each other.
Okay.
And so very different.
Got it. How about Tampa? You mentioned Tampa. That's a pretty big metro area.
Well, yeah, but I was in Tampa in the early 80s. It wasn't good. It's probably about then what Jacksonville is now.
Got it.
It was the same. I mean, it's Jacksonville. You didn't know everybody.
Yeah.
And so you ran up against strangers when you're litigating against strangers. It's not as collegial as when you're litigating.
Good point. Yes.
If I could just add, I
Please.
don't obviously, I mean, I did when I was at the Attorney General's office, kind of go to surrounding counties, and I didn't really have a taste of it. But I agree that it is more collegial in terms of a very small town, so you just know everybody.
Right.
And I sometimes think that the knowing of people makes a huge difference. And it's almost like you want those opposing bars to do things together, because I think that Blane, sorry, I'm calling me Blane. But when you're with someone and you work with them or know them, it's a lot harder to be a jerk and to be just a pure advocate. And so to highlight that, I have cases with counsel that become a defendant out of Orlando or something. And I have one now that I have been involved in a criminal case, so very, very different than civil case, for a year. He has made, because he has been allowed to make every single court appearance by Zoom, and he has yet, and I mean yet, to pick up a phone and actually communicate with me. It is all done through his assistant, so that I'm literally having conversations about, and then he goes, I just set the depo because you were difficult the last time. And I'm like, I wasn't difficult, I didn't have service on the witness. But nonetheless, that to me is offensive when these lawyers roll in and they don't know the judge, they don't know the courtroom, and there's really no collegiality amongst it. Is just purely, you're the enemy, and I'm gonna deal with you as little as I can, and I'm probably billing the food out of my client, because it's taking forever to resolve.
Yeah, just by way of reference, back then, I'm a recovering litigator. So, back then I was a litigator, and you know, it's litigating with people you don't know. It gives them license to be an asshole, and my experience is they usually were. But with people you know, it's different.
My experience was a little different because I was the chief legal officer for large corporations, and all the lawyers wanted business from me, so they were always nice to me.
Of course, yeah.
But I will tell you that they're in every place, even as small as the Third Circuit, Live Oak and surrounding. There's an elitism amongst the lawyers, and if you're in there, you're in the club, but you're not necessarily top tier. And I would say that in Jacksonville, that's true. There's always been those few firms and lawyers that are mainly family firms that pass down their blood firms, I call them.
Right.
And so if you're not part of that group, or you're not part of those firms, or you don't go to their particular, don't belong to their club or whatever, then you're not going to be necessarily an insider. But that's true almost everywhere. The smaller the size, so Live Oak, Third Circuit, we knew all the lawyers because we saw them all the time. So they couldn't really be jerks. But I've seen them be jerks to other people. So it's not the lawyers per se, but it's maybe how lawyers behave. And I will tell you that if you line up any 50 lawyers who practice regularly, they're probably all very collegial anywhere you go. So I think that's true in Jacksonville. But it's like the old joke about the mom who tied the pork chop around the kid's neck so the dog would play with him. If I've got a big bank account and you're a litigator, then you're very nice to me. As I said last time I was doing the speaking, if I'm the arbitrator and the lawyers are in the room, they're very nice to me.
Sure.
So,
And everything you say is funny, too.
I can use all my same old jokes.
Dad jokes aside, I think they're hilarious.
But it brings up a point I started to intrude on your talk.
No, please.
We should strive for that. The collegiality of this profession is what we should always strive for, whether we know the lawyers or not.
Agree, and that's really, that theme was kind of what struck me with this idea of how I articulated it. Again, from my perception, even though Jacksonville is, by statistical standards, a large metropolitan area, it seems to have a small town closeness to it that's a little unique for a metropolitan area our size. And again, that was a perception, so maybe it's a wrong perception, but being in the early 80s, maybe Tampa had that, but I perceive, and the connotation is often like south of I-4, you kind of perceive that area is a little less collegial, a little less concerned about what if I encounter this lawyer in the next case, a little more concerned about maximizing my benefit now. We'll deal with it later. So I've always felt, at least that in my experience, that Jacksonville has been very fertile and productive in having a collegiality that I think has been tremendously helpful to my growth as a person and as a lawyer. And I've liked, what y'all are saying, I think echoes, at least that Jacksonville, for the most part, does have well. Obviously, there's going to be outliers in any community, and even your small community, may still have some outliers. But on the whole, I think we've done well as a local community. In terms of the Jacksonville Bar specific, this is a truncated version of its mission statement, but it says to encourage collegiality and to serve our members in the practice of law, aid in the administration of justice, and foster respect for the law and the legal profession. So it starts off, and I forget when that mission statement was crafted, long before I was involved, so that's been a long standing, but it starts off with encourage collegiality, because the founders or the crafters of this statement realized how critical that was for both an efficient legal system and for the lawyers to find satisfaction in working in an efficient legal system, or enjoyment, as Heidi so well remembered. So as I was a practicing lawyer, and again, by the time COVID hit in 2020, I was 25 years into it, and I noticed that the introduction or imposition of COVID had a significant impact on the collegiality. Do you all, and I'm now, even those of you who aren't lawyers, have you noticed that just in general in terms of society? And why is that? What was it about the COVID intrusion in our life that impacted negatively collegiality?
Isolation. We were built for community, and we were robbed of that for a period of time.
Right.
People need people.
There you go. Heard that in a song somewhere.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Isolation.
Right.
Isolation. People need people.
I mean, I think I mentioned again, you know, if you're friendly, if I see you in social engagement, especially, and that's what I love about the Jack's Bar events, because I come across colleagues that I don't normally work with on a day-to-day basis. And once we've established a friendship, when you, and I don't mean anything untoward, you know, about the relationship, but that when we then find ourselves on opposite sides, I'm not rude to you, I don't assume you're an ass, I don't assume that you don't know what you're doing, and it's more that I'm able to have a conversation instead of a purely adversarial role. And you can come to compromises, and it doesn't mean that it's bad for either client, but it's almost like you have a duty to be kind, and it's easier to do when I know you as opposed to you're just a person behind pleading.
Great. Yeah.
One lingering effect of that I've seen since I've been back is there aren't any in-person hearings. I'm doing a probate for a friend, even though I shouldn't, but she was dying, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And there's no in-person hearing, so you don't really get to know the judge, or if there's another attorney, I think by Zoom. And so the lack of mingling at the courthouse, seeing people, saying hello, you know, I don't know why there's no ex parte anymore, which cost me 2 months in getting the probate off the ground, because, and I don't know why, and I don't know this judge, and
Right.
you know, but it just seems like there's this lingering after effect from COVID, which is in the legal industry as well as all the other industries. You know, their service is down everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not coming back. But why is it this way here? I don't know, but that's a problem, I think.
Great. Please.
I was gonna say, I just think that people in their work are more insular, and they're just like, they can just be comfortable at home and try to work out of their, you know, few relationships, rather than going out into and taking that extra effort to be collegial externally. It's all like internally focused in some way.
I've also heard that the courthouse, the way it was designed, or the way it's being administered, is that the judges are now insulated from the public, and so to get to them, you have to go to the gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers keep you out, if I understand it from other attorneys. I mean, attorneys have said that they cannot get to the judges.
I mean, back in the old courthouse, you just would walk on the floor, and as a criminal lawyer, you knew all of them.
Right.
And you would just walk down the hall looking for a judge to sign a warrant, or you'd say, oh, hey, and it was just a small, you know, a lawyer community. And now, but for the judge I appear beforehand, or have to stick my face in, I don't see them anymore, and it really is you know, you go to an event now, to the Jack's Bar event, only because you're like, that's the only opportunity I
Right.
have really to mix and mingle
Yeah.
with the bar, with the judges.
So one of the first things, and I'm going to all of you have said great points. Angie used a word that I have in my notes for next, but one of the initial societal prescriptions that we were told to do to combat this pandemic was social distancing. At the time, that sounded very, you know, what does that term even mean? It was foreign to us, the idea of intentionally having 7 feet or, you know, 2 arms, your hands touch but no closer kind of deal. I think without knowing it, that societal prescription unfortunately set a mental framework of, you know, what we're now dealing with in the aftermath. We're just more distant from each other. Social distance. You know, again, it was an idea of avoiding crowds. It was an idea of having some, you know, protective space, if you will, from whatever might be coming out of someone else's mouth that doesn't get into your lungs and cause you a problem. And as a result, with Zoom and other things, we have retreated. We as a society generally, we did become more insular, and we did find some comfort in that and find some efficiencies in that. I'm not bashing Zoom. I think Zoom is here to stay, and I think it does a good thing, you know, for needs that weren't previously met well. But I do think from my observations, at least, society and our peers are having a hard time having Zoom now become the exception instead of remaining the norm as it has been for the last many years. So yeah, exactly. You know, and so from my perception, when the idea of social distancing and retreat and isolation became not only the norm, but almost, you know, encouraged and prescribed to us, we did lose collegiality because we lost community. And when I say the word community, my brain connotes a certain thing. When you hear the word community, what do you think? What does that trigger in you in terms of like a definitional concept? I want to be sure we're kind of talking apples and apples. Okay.
You know your neighbors, you know who they are, you know who you can go borrow a cup of sugar from if you need it, right?
Or feed your cat when you didn't make it home on time and someone needs to help.
Yeah.
I think kind of like a safety net. You know, when I moved here from Wisconsin, I'm all by myself. I don't have anybody to fix any of my stuff or anything beyond my expertise. So my network makes me feel more secure. Because if anything happens, I know who I can call that would help me out because we've gotten a relationship that we built up.
Good.
I even have Facebook communities, so I have pages that I'm a part of that are the USAT triathlon group that competes with Team USA. I have the Pathetic triathlon page. I have race pages.
I don't think any triathlon page should be called pathetic. That's impressive, whether they're fast or slow.
And so there you have that interesting dynamic where I'm able to have this large group of a community, and we're from all 50 states and countries and the whatnot, and I still feel a community with them. But I also have real life communities, which is my workplace, my family, my workplace,
right.
The courthouse, the bar, you know, if you have like a group, a church, you know, if you have like military communities, and it's just like-minded or like-oriented with activity, folks, you know, that go and do a reenactment or something, and you know, you might not really be around those people at any other time, but darn, they're fun, you know,
right.
when you're battling them out on the field.
Right. You say something?
I was going to say that it's the relationships you have with people you don't need anything from.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's an interesting insight.
See, I was gonna say there's some level of interdependence sometimes in like a thriving community, but dependence is just needing each other.
I mean, what do you mean by a community where there is no need for anything from someone?
If I have a case with you, I have a relationship because I need something from you. I need some concessions or whatever. But if I just know you because you're a runner and I see you around town, I say, hey.
But don't you think
that's community?
But yes, but it's still, you need something from them. You need the ability to say hi, like that. It makes you feel part of something. So I argue you get something from them. Otherwise, you're just doing a hey to Joe Blow on the street.
I think it's the relationship you want to have instead of what you need to have. I need to have this. I need.
Well, that
I need to
distinction
deal
I buy
with
into.
Except in the need to have relationships, like the Bar Association, for example. That's how norms come about. If you don't have a community that establishes norms, then you become America today, basically. But I think that's important as well.
Good talk. When you said that comment, I was thinking having a self-serving agenda versus something where you benefit, but it's not just all about you and you're joining this thing just for you and you alone, and the others are there to feed you, so to speak. So good. You guys covered a lot of ground. So some people, when they think community, they think geographic or proximity, the neighborhood idea. Regardless of who these people are, I don't know them, but they're my community because we share a street. Some people think of community in terms of online groups, and I think those are valid communities. Some people think of communities in terms of intentional relationship building. And that's really, as I've talked about building community, particularly with the Jacksonville Bar, we do have a commonality because our membership is lawyers, and lawyers within a certain geographic proximity. But the idea of community transcends those things, in my mind at least, and is more about intentional relationship building, intentional relationship fostering, Because if we do that well as lawyers or as non-lawyers in this particular audience, if we can have community like that, then we can, get the help we need in an occasion. We can find someone to commiserate with when we're having a struggle and we need someone to prop us up or pray for us or bring us a meal because we're just being incapacitated or whatever else it might be. We can have somebody to brainstorm with whose ideas will not be self-serving to him or her, but hopefully nourishing to us. That's kind of my concept of community. And I do believe that community suffered because of COVID, and maybe it triggered, a rampant decline in other aspects of community as well. So the challenge I had, and what I wanted to emphasize during my term at the bar, is that being a member of an organization, be it the Jacksonville Lawyers Roundtable, be it the Jacksonville Bar Association, be it the Pathetic Triathletes, or whatever other things you might choose. And it's one thing to be a member and you kind of claim that on whatever. It's another to really invest in those people that are there and invest in the relationship potential that particular community brings to you. And so as I was looking at what focus might the bar want during my term, what can I do to advance the cause of the Jacksonville Bar, particularly to encourage collegiality, I really was drawn to the idea of building community. So the challenge I have for myself, and one I'm going to put out here because you all have been good at brainstorming, is the following. What can we do individually to help build community into our own lives? What are some things we can do intentionally, individually? Because I get the sense from this room that we're all of the mindset that a healthy community is helpful for everybody. Helpful for you, helpful to enjoy life, helpful to be more productive, all that. It seems like we're on the same page with that. So then what can we do to build more of that into our lives? What thoughts do we have?
You would be an adventurer if you don't have a church home. You go and find a church or go and touch base with different churches, because every time you become part of a community, you enrich, I would hope, that community, that you bring in a different taste for them. And so, you enrich them by bringing your personality, your experience, your ability to be a part of and be active and then you become arguably a better person, because if I go somewhere where I believe in God, but it's not that I'm active with it day in, day out, if I go somewhere where these folks are living in it, then they help me accept it and understand it and know how to use it, and the next thing you know, you got potluck every Friday.
All right.
And I like food.
Got me a potluck. Good. Other thoughts? What can we do?
Being present and intentional. Wherever you are, you made the commitment to go, so be present, and not only just be there and in the background, but engage and share what you have in you with those around you.
If I can, I want to bring it back to the group, so to speak, but if I can pause for just a moment. My natural personality is not to thrive in large gatherings. So when I was seeing the prior presidency looming, part of me was like, okay, got the bench and bar was like 300 some odd people, and I'm not really good at that. I wouldn't normally choose to do that. And I had to make, to your point, Angie, I had to make an intentional decision. I'm going to risk becoming uncomfortable doing something I wouldn't normally do because, one, the role requires it, and two, hopefully I'll realize it's not so scary. And I can survive and maybe even enjoy a setting of that nature that wasn't how I was normally, what would normally have attracted me otherwise. So I think what you just said really spoke truth, but also kind of spoke an experience I've had fairly recently. Because I do think some of community building requires vulnerability and requires putting yourself and taking yourself out of your pure comfort zone and risking discomfort to be in a place you wouldn't normally go to, or the first visit to a church or whatever group, first visit to a place like this with people that I knew some of but not all of. There's certainly risk in any time you venture into a group that's not your normal posse, and how are they going to receive you, and is the setting going to be friendly or awkward or whatnot. So
you
you spoke.
Intentional mindset with what you want to do and who you want to be around, and like you said, coming over that fear, you have to have that intention. It's like that fast. I did a
Yeah, I was impressed to hear that.
And I'd done fasting before, but it was more weight loss, health-wise. And then the 21 days I did was a spiritual fast to the Lord, dedicated to Him over my daughter.
Tremendous.
And 21 days was nothing. It was easy. But the 86, which wasn't spiritual, that was my longest one before. It was like, okay, this is a little bit of a struggle. But I had that intentional mindset that I'm doing this to the Lord over my daughter. And for parents that are in here, you do anything for your kids. So it's the same intentions of, you know, at the beginning, like 21 days. Okay, I just got to do this. But same thing, just an intentional mindset of what you want to do or overcome or accomplish, and just stick to it. Because now I'm like, oh, 21 days, what am I going to do for 31?
Challenge me, come on.
Then we'll go to 40.
Wow, good on you, thank you. Yeah, it definitely needs intentionality.
I think service is another area, and the nice thing about it is you can choose, you know, what you're helping out with. Like choose the cause, take it up, and go there. And I think like I do some stuff with the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and so it's uncomfortable, but it's purposeful. And then I just know other people who are making themselves uncomfortable, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is hard, but we're in it for a reason. And then church is such an interesting one because it is a place where you can go. You can also go and be anonymous for a long time. And like even going to Bible studies is still potentially anonymous. But with serving, like
unless you're intentional in making connections.
I know. Sometimes that can happen. But
no, absolutely, I agree with you.
But then I serve in the nursery some at my church, and that's like the one time where it's like I'm forced to talk to another parent for like an hour, and that's the best. That's where like the community then happens in a way that it doesn't Sunday after Sunday. So.
Because I've even gone to parties, you know, you're like, man, I really don't want to go, and I don't know anybody, I'm going, and my friend knows everyone. Luckily, I have an engaging personality. You don't want to discuss an elevator with me, because you will know my life story before you get to the bottom floor. But every time I go, even when I don't have the most, you know, exhilarating time, I still try to look around and find one person. And I also, when I do races, I tend to get there and I just look around to see who appears lonely, who appears maybe a little frightened about the daunting thing they're about to take on. And I just saddle up to them and go, yeah, you know, I'm here alone too. And let me just say, I'm Susan, here's my face. If you're on the course, look for me. I'll cheer for you. I'm probably gonna need you to cheer for me. I need a pancake. But, you know, every time I come home, I go, wow, you know, what a cool person. I had no idea they have these stories, these experiences. They're fun to get to know. Had I not gone, and had I not started talking to Doug, had I not started talking to you, I wouldn't be as enriched as I am. And I will come home and go, had I only known, you know, why did I even not want to go? I mean, these people are fun, and now maybe I have a friend for life.
Okay, good stuff. So, I realize you guys have been great, and my time has gotten away from me. So let me try to bring it home to be honoring of 1 o'clock-ish time frame. What I heard among these comments were great. I would classify that most of that was more about plugging into a community you're already into, and I had some thoughts that certainly I think that's appropriate. Find something that, you know, that's a passion of yours, and find a community that shares that passion. That's great. But in terms of, in addition to that, you know, what about the people that you already have some connection with? You made a great point earlier, and I asked Doug a question on the same line yesterday. Susan's comment earlier was the guy has never called me. I thought you're going to go in the direction of he always sends me letters or emails. He does the impersonal, but it's even more just having someone else do it for you. I asked Doug yesterday in his presentation about the etiquette of, you know, not responding to emails or picking up the phone instead of, I think, you know, some of the things we can do as lawyers to kind of make it more simple, even in more like tangible. You can leave and do it like this afternoon. Next time you need to connect with somebody on the opposite side of the V or whatever else, pick up the phone and just call that person. I mean, I was taught that early. I'm glad I was. My early career was pre-email being a main thing, whatever, but nonetheless, wrote too many letters as a young lawyer because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, everything in writing, and finally someone pulled me and said, just call me next time, would you? I thought, well, that's just tremendous advice, and I had not thought of that, but the idea of picking up the phone and calling opposing counsel so-and-so and just talking, you can get your issue on the table, but you've now done it in a way that just can create perhaps more of a trust foundation and more of a relationship-based interaction. Just one idea that came to my mind that I'm striving to do better at in my career, in addition to the things that we've discussed, because I really feel like collegiality is a function, I would dare say a necessary function of community. If you have poor community, no community, you can't be collegial with strangers. You can be polite with strangers and not offensive, but collegiality is something more. It requires connectedness, it requires relationship, it requires an underlying foundation of knowledge and trust, which I think comes from community. So my hope is that the bar is doing not only a good job of preaching that message during my term and trying to live it out and flesh it out and give its members the opportunities to find and pursue community, but I hope that's the case for my life personally, and I hope perhaps this chat brought one or two ideas in your mind about the importance of it, or something you can do nuts and bolts wise to make it happen, because I truly do believe if you can build community, you will better enjoy not only being a lawyer, but being a human, being a citizen of wherever you are, encountering whomever you encounter. So thank you for letting me come and share those thoughts and inviting me into your community this afternoon.
Thank you very much.